This is the best chili cheese hamburger helper on YouTube, and I'm about to show you how to cook it. This is a very easy dish. You can cook this on a night when you don't feel like you have time to cook. The ingredients are very simple. You'll have most of these things in your cabinet, and if you don't, it won't be a problem of going to the store and getting these real quick, and then you'll be on your way with this meal. We have our flour, we have our all purpose seasoning, we have our paprika, we have our sugar, black pepper, we have our chili powder, which is the secret ingredient to this. And then, of course, we have garlic powder. Then, of course, we have our cup of onions here. We have our beef broth, and we have our milk, and we have some elbow macaroni, which, of course, you know is a staple in Hamburger Helper. And then, of course, you can use tomato paste, but I use tomato sauce. And one of my favorite ingredients, which is better than bouillon. I use this anytime that I'm going to use anything that has beef in it. It is the secret sauce, and it makes everything taste good. As you can see here, we have 4 tablespoons of butter. Put this in your pan. Make sure your pan or, make sure your pot. I'm using a Dutch oven. These things get extremely hot. Make sure they're not too hot so your butter don't burn. Put in your onions. Stir them up well and let them soften for about 5 minutes. Next, we want to put in our pound of beef. I got 80/20. You can use 90/10, a little bit more expensive, but a lot less grease. Let's get this all stirred up, broken up, so we can get that butter and those onions all mixed in with this ground beef. It's going to make it taste really, really good. Cooking really well. As you can see, this is 80/20, so it is producing some grease, but it's going to be really good and flavorful. Get this all chopped up really well or ground up. All right, so it looks like we have our meat totally browned with our onions and the butter. Everything's all nice and soft and good. Let's drain this and then we're going to come right back. And so we have it drained. Now let's start putting in our dry ingredients. And first, even though it's not a dry ingredient, we will put in our tomato sauce. Again, this recipe can use tomato paste, but I've chosen to use tomato sauce. Get that stirred up. Now, these are the hands of my beautiful wife. She's going to put in all of the dry ingredients. Putting in our flour, our all purpose seasoning. Putting in our sugar. Yes, you put sugar in this because you might not, I don't know if you cook chili or not, but you put sugar in chili. And of course, you got the paprika, got the black pepper, and the star of the dish, the chili powder. I put a tablespoon. You could put a little bit more depending upon how much of a chili flavor you want. And then, of course, we got the garlic powder. And anytime you're talking about seasonings, these can vary. It just depends on how much seasoning do you actually like in your dishes. Now, in this dish, I feel like this is probably the minimum as far as seasoning goes. And I always say, yeah, if you're not sneezing, it ain't seasoned. So, you can put as much of this, and I'm not gonna say overdo it, but you can kind of do it to taste, kind of experiment as you cook these types of dishes. But we want to get that all stirred up. We got those seasonings all stirred up in there. Now we're going to put in our liquids. We want to stir in that beef broth. Stir it in nice, slow, making sure you're getting all of those ingredients mixed in along with that beef broth. Then we pour in our milk. And it's kind of funny, when you're cooking this dish, it kind of reminds you a little bit of a roux in a sense. The creams and stuff that you put on chickens and on chicken and steak and meats like that, because of course you got the milk and of course you got the flour. And let's not forget, once again, my ultimate secret sauce, and that is better than beef bouillon. Man, I got turned on to this stuff, and I am telling you, it makes any dish with beef taste absolutely insanely good. So my wife, she's gonna stir this all up once again, get this all mixed up really, really well. Now we're going to put in the elbow macaroni. Stir these in really well. You could probably pour them right in, but I just say stir them in. And of course, I had a couple of boxes of that I had used or my son had used, and so we're able to use both of these. Some leftovers. Like I said, you can make this from stuff that you probably have left over from other dishes. The only thing that you probably would won't have to, you'd have to go to the store and get is the better than bouillon. But get this all stirred up. And we've had this at kind of a medium temperature. But now that we got all of our ingredients in, got them all mixed, got our elbow macaroni in, now we want to kind of turn it up to a medium high. We're going to set our timer for 13 minutes. And we're going to bring it to a boil. And once we get it to a boil, of course, we're going to turn that heat down, turn it down to maybe medium to a medium low. And then, of course, you put a lid on it. And if you put a lid on it, you can cook this without a lid. But if you put a lid on it, you'll notice that it will cook a lot better. You can hold in all that flavor, and you can get the noodles to cook a lot better and get a lot softer. And so you just want to check in on this from time to time. Make sure you stir it up. Make sure nothing is sticking to the bottom. And this is looking extremely good. So let's keep on cooking it. Okay. We have got most of our juice boiled down. The timer has stopped. If you want, you could cook this a little bit longer if you wanted all the juice out. But there's a little bit of juice left in here. And the reason why I think this is significant is once you put the cheese in, now you have just a little bit of juice that when you melt the cheese on top of this, is going to make a nice cheesy sauce. So the way you see it boiling right now with just a little bit of liquid is perfect. Now the cheese I'm putting in here is mild cheddar. Now this is deli cheese. I had this left over from a hamburger dish that I cooked. So I took this mild cheddar from the deli. Never buy the cheese in the packages. It is something about the way it is and how they put it in the packages to be preserved. Doesn't melt as good and tastes nowhere near as good. So the deli cheese is where it's at. And so I cut these slices up. And now my wife, once again, is going to stir them in. And as you'll see, because we got a little bit of that liquid left, it's making a nice cheesy sauce. Look at how quick that melts in the pan. Just nice and smooth. Get it nice and stirred up. Make sure all the cheese is mixed in. Now we're going to put the lid on it. You can turn it off at this point, depending upon what you're cooking it in. Dutch ovens tend to hold heat very well. So if you're going to cook this in a Dutch oven, I would go ahead and turn it off because what's going to happen is that the cheese and the sauce, they're going to thicken and the noodles are going to get a lot more tender. And here we are. The dish is done. Look at how good that looks. My wife is going to taste test it. She's a little bit camera shy, but and that is the nod of approval. The verdict is in. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. I think we have a winner. And there it is again. The best chili cheese hamburger helper on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share, hit that notification bell. And once again, I am the Gospel Gourmet, and you have been cooking with George Boyd Jr. Thank you, and God bless.